Well, so our friend Puck has called into the show. Let's touch base and see what's on his mind, buddy. Super excited to hear from you. What's going on tonight?
Hi, Christy. Hi, Chelsea. How you guys doing?
Hello.
Hey, not
Good.
too bad.
Okay. Well, I've always wanted to ask someone who's been in the industry this for a while, and I was wondering about the stigma, not just involving sex workers, but involving customers of sex workers. And in my mind, part of destigmatizing sex work must also include removing some of the stigmas from people who consume or want to hire sex workers. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really accepted in certain places. I'm Dutch American, so you go to Amsterdam, sex work is viewed as a legal job there by the government, and going to sex worker isn't really viewed as a big taboo there. So I think it's just a very American sex work thing. There's a lot of parts of the world where escorting is the more normalized thing than porn. It's extremely legal to do sex work and Australia. Like escorting is kind of the main form of sex work there. So I think it just kind of depends on the country. But I think the United States is definitely more towards the porn world of being like, oh, this is acceptable, while thinking escorting is completely not allowed.
Do you notice any trends in the way that things seem to be going? Is that getting better in any sense here?
I think there's certain places that are starting to decrim. I know Ann Arbor, Michigan recently decriminalized
Mm-hmm.
sex work. Um, I don't know. I feel like so much the hope is actually coming from Australia right now. Victoria legalized sex work in a certain way. There's still some issues with it that do need to be worked out, but I feel like most of the real progress with legalizing and decriminalizing sex work is coming from overseas.
Hmm. Puck, how does
Yeah, I
that
think
strike
with
you?
more ways to. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was curious how that struck you. Go right ahead, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, here there's a lot of stigma that I've noticed that like if someone needs to hire a sex worker or pays for a lot of custom content, that they must have difficulty or impossibility in finding a partner of their own, or they're into some things that are just too disgusting to really talk about. Whether it's it doesn't even really matter what the subject is, but there's a lot of that stigma about if you're hiring someone to perform these acts or to film themselves performing these acts, that there must be something wrong with those people. But I think with things like sites where you can actually communicate directly with the performers, I think that actually opens up the door to make it so it's like, yes, if it may appear that I am being degraded and humiliated or whatever it is that's happening, but they can be assured that everything is purely consensual. They know what's going to happen going into it, and no matter what the film looks like, that everybody was thumbs up just before saying, yes, I'm still into doing this.
Yeah, I think it's just so important to really get the sex workers' voices directly. And for me, like discovering Sasha Grey, who did really, really extreme porn, like 20-person gangbangs, but then on the outside of porn was super vocal about industry reforms, was really vocal about feminism. I feel like for me, that was so important. And I don't think I'd be important if it wasn't for performers like that. I think there's some forms of sex work that are fairly normalized in this country, like going to a strip club, I think is still fairly glamorized. But I don't know what's ultimately gonna change the view of going to like an escort in this country or going or like even buying porn, but I don't know. I personally am just in circles where porn's so normalized, so I'm probably not the best person to speak about that.
Sure. I mean, I would have thought that things like OnlyFans kind of democratized porn in a lot of ways and made it so available and lowered the barrier to entry for people
Mhm.
to begin performing. I would have thought that that would mean that now nearly everybody had a family member or a friend or somebody that was actually working, even if it was just
Yeah.
part time. And in the same way that like you can always tell who's worked in a restaurant and who hasn't by the way that they tip or by the way that they leave their table, I really thought that that was going to lead to meaningful change in our country, and perhaps it still will. But I don't know about you, Puck, but I struggle to feel like things are getting better in that sense, or that the judgment around buying pornography has gone down in a meaningful way.
I think it's not going down. I think it's hitting people who never thought they'd have to deal with it. Like I've been browsing through TikTok, and you don't go there very far until you find someone who's saying, "Well, my family found my OnlyFans, and now we have to have this conversation." So it's since more people are able to do it now, these conversations are not just hypothetical. What would I do if I found out my child was a sex worker? And now these more conversations are happening more with people who thought they'd never have to have them.
Yeah, it's never an easy conversation. Like coming out to your parents about doing porn is always hard. I think kind of no matter what. I think it's a little more normalized now with stuff like OnlyFans and mini vids. But yeah, I think there's still definitely the taboo of having to have that conversation.
I mean, it's still an acceptable joke on a, broad like CBS sitcom to say something about like, well, we've got to make sure she stays in school. We've got to keep her off the pole.
Yeah.
Like that is still such common language that I feel like we've got a long ways to go before that conversation about, your parents finding your OnlyFans starts to become, I don't know, acceptable or doable.
Yeah, I think it's also varies too because there's also performers who are multiple generations in. I talked to Raquel Roper on my show. She's a femdom from Florida, and her grandma ran a sex store that sold porn. Her mom was like a playmate, I believe, in the 80s. And now she's a femdom and her mom does all of her advertising. So I think it depends on what family you're from. And I think porn, like a lot of things, if everyone in your family's in that industry, chances are if you get in that industry, you're going to have a decent amount of success. Whether it's the guy who won the Olympics in curling, his whole family was into curling, or if you're a butcher and your whole family's butchers, I feel like it just kind of sometimes comes like that.
Yeah, no, thank you for introducing us to the Ropers and the I guess the Coppolas of porn.
Mm-hmm.
But Puck, thank you so much for calling. Anything else
thank
on your
you.
mind tonight?
No, just wanted to underline again that making videos is genuine work. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it: the lighting, the angles, the costumes, the editing afterwards. So, like the people who are most successful on OnlyFans, you're not just laying there in a cute outfit. There's a lot of real hard work that goes into it. The promoting and all sorts of it. This is legit work. So, thanks for calling attention to that too.
Yeah, I also feel like all the training and stuff that goes in before to get your body ready to perform, whether it's going to the gym 5 days a week, whether it's, having a butt plug in for a month, like there's a lot that goes into it even before you step on set.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, but thanks for talking about it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Puck. You have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks.